All right, we are here to talk about the Brickyard 400 from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Qualifying ended about 4 hours ago. A little bit late to the show. Had a bunch of things to do tonight. Nonetheless, we're going to talk about two guys that are pretty close to absolute locks in my opinion, and two guys who could certainly end up being solid plays. You're sitting at a track where it's roughly, I think it's 170 laps, so we're not looking at laps led as really being a dominator statistic. This also really doesn't shape up to be a race where you're necessarily looking at place differential being a huge component of things. I'm definitely, my focus is more on where we should see drivers finish the race as being the, kind of the statistic that we're looking at, because it very well could play pretty even keel here. We could end up with a situation where you don't see a ton of laps led or a ton of place differential points. So, speaking on the two guys that are pretty obvious, let's start with Kyle Larson. Starting 25th, doesn't take much of a insight to realize that Kyle Larson is far better than a 25th position driver. He should pretty easily be able to get his car, into the top 15, probably into the top 10. And I think we really are looking at upside floating around, 8th or 9th finish. Could he win? Yeah. I mean, there's nothing stopping him from winning. He's a great driver. He's not my favorite to win. He really doesn't handle these tracks terrific, but it just feels far too low where he's at, so I don't mind playing some Kyle Larson at all. AJ Allmendinger, he will probably be the most highly owned car. He's starting in 39th or 40th. I don't know, how it pans out, but it looks like 39th to me. Regardless, he's already starting with a point and place differential because Jimmy Johnson is changing a gear shift, and that will drop him from 4th to 40th, though he will be graded from the 4th position. Allmendinger, he's a guy who could finish anywhere from 16 to 24. That's enough place differential. You are looking at 15 to 16 spots there. That should get him over the 40-point mark. That's really at his cost all you're looking for. You don't really need to find much more than that. Two guys I want to play that are just in good positions, period. Paul Menard, not a name you typically, hear talked about too much unless he's a great place differential play. But the reality of the situation is he's handled this track extremely well. Really high finishes at Indianapolis Motor Speedway over the last several years. I think it's been 14th or above since 2011, which is pretty solid. He's starting 17th. Yeah, I would love to see him starting in the mid-20s, but we don't get to make that decision. We can only play him from where he's starting. Yeah, the place differential upside isn't that great, but depending on how things shake out, a top 10 here isn't unheard of. Because of where he's starting, it's possible that he might not see a ton of ownership, and that gives him more appeal to me as well. The final guy I want to talk about, Kyle Busch. Now look, everything's playing against Kyle Busch here. He's won this track 2 years in a row. Very hard to believe that he comes through with 3 straight wins here. Hasn't won a race since the last year's Brickyard 400. He's come close. He's led laps. He's done everything that you would expect a driver to do except for win. Now, he could definitely do that here. He's shown in the past that this track is one of his strengths. Ultimately, I'm a buyer at Busch this weekend. I expect a lot of people to be as well. Shown enough speed in practice for me to not be too concerned. Busch is my top guy this week, but he's going to carry high ownership. Once again, a lot of guys, I think 3 of these 4 are going to have ownership. Those 3 being Allmendinger, Larson, Busch. I think Menard might skate through the middle of the pack because it's not an attractive starting spot for him, but he is someone I do want to use. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Head over to researchfantasy.com. Check out what we've got going on there. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Research and Win, and join us again next week.